Okay, so how do jiu-jitsu athletes grease? A couple of ways. Usually, they don't put Vaseline. They put like Johnson & Johnson lotion on because it stays on longer. It's like thinner, so it will seep into the pores better. And so how they do it is they usually don't like, I've had people who just like grease like right before and then they come out greased. But usually what they do is they'll rub the lotion in like an hour to 2 hours beforehand, so that it dries into the skin. Then they'll do a light warm-up. They'll towel themselves down so they're not really sweating anymore. So then when they do the pre-fight grease check, if there is one, they're dry. Then the second they start sweating, the pores open up and the lotion comes out. And the second the lotion comes out, you just absolutely cannot hold on to anybody. It's really it's a real big difference. It's like baseless. Like, it's a huge difference. If you don't believe me, don't just put lotion on. Put lotion on. 10 minutes later, get a sweat going. Once you're sweating, mix with the lotion. Then roll with your buddy and have him try to hold on to you. And if you want to get real risky, do it shirtless, and you'll see. Greasing is a serious fucking problem. Another way guys do it is, what they'll do is if they have grease checks and they want to do a strong warm-up, because let's say a lot of guys put the lotion on, they do a light warm-up so they're not really that sweaty, and they come out and they compete. One thing guys will do as well is they'll take like a bucket or a tub the night before the match, and they'll lay backwards and they'll put their hair in the tub, so only the top of their head and their hair and their scalp get wet with usually baby oil if they're going to do that on their hair, and they'll let the baby oil soak for a certain amount of time into their head, and they'll go to sleep and they'll have it dry into their scalp. The next day when they go to warm up, they'll wear a hat or a beanie or a hoodie, so that when they sweat, the initial grease just sweats and it runs into the hat, so then your body's dry. So then your body has no grease on it. Then the second you start sweating, the baby oil runs from the hair down onto the face, and then it rubs into the whole body when you start grappling. So that's another way to do it. But now, how do we solve this is the question. Long sleeve rash guards and spats are definitely a great way to do it, but there has to be a two-tiered approach to greasing, right? Because if you get caught greasing in a match, it's hard to DQ a guy, which I think you should DQ them anyways. If you're doing like a professional event, like, you know, it's hard to tell investors, whoever the case is, oh yeah, we DQ'd, you know, the final or the main event match ended in a DQ because the guy was greasing. Like, that's kind of a bad look for a professional event. And there's no points, obviously. And the penalties don't really mean much in a who's number one like rule set. So it has to be a two-tiered approach, okay? And it can't just be a financial penalty. Like, I think if you get caught greasing, like blatantly Nicky was greasing today, and, you know, Pena complained about it like 6 times. I think you should get between a 50 and a 75% purse reduction. Now, that's the first tier, because even if you get a 75% purse reduction, like let's say Joe Schmo is making $10,000 to fight me, right? And he's greased, and they catch him greasing, and they take away 75% of his purse. And for whatever reason, let's say Joe Schmo ends up on my back, and he's got grease all over him, and I have a defensive hand in place, and I'm holding on. It's a grip that usually works, but there's grease, so the grip doesn't work, and he rips his hand out with the grease, and he shoots under my neck, and he strangles me. If that guy makes $10,000, or however much money he makes, and he loses 75% of that purse, let's say he loses $7,500, and he goes home with $2,500. The brand recognition that he's going to get and the money that he's going to make from beating me is going to be 1,000,000 times whatever money he lost because of the fact that he was greased. So you can't just take money away from the guy, because if they use the grease to beat a high-profile name, the purse doesn't matter. Like, even if a guy's making $100,000